This
Hey,
meeting is
what's
being
good with it,
recorded.
man? This is the Rojo Room. This is your boy Big Rojo. I'm joined with Gunner. And today we're going to talk about some stuff, man. It happened this year, man. It's been thrown out there a little bit, man, but we wanted to touch on it again because it's very interesting, man. And it involves the whole quiet storm get down and the confinement of these individuals at Atwater, the United States prison, which is very rare, being that they haven't been convicted of nothing yet, but they're being housed in a federal prison. And apparently, with DC, David Cervantes, as well as Conejo being confined to wheelchairs, it seems like they're getting their rights violated a little bit, man. Gunnar, what did you pick up on this, man?
So I wanted to talk a little bit about the Atwater prison. As a child, I grew up right off of Santa Fe. It's called Old Santa Fe, the road where Atwater Penitentiary is located, the United States Penitentiary. And I remember it was once known as Castle Air Force Base. It was an Air Force base back in the days, man. I remember growing up, we used to have airplanes flying over or whatnot. It'd be real loud. They were supposed to be building a theme park there for years, man. The taxpayers were thinking that a theme park was going to get built. We're going to have somewhere to go as a kid. I remember I was happy because it was going to bring a lot of attention to the city of Merced and everything. It's located 5 minutes away from where I grew up, so that's the get down. So I knew Atwater real good. Now, they decided that for no other reason they should build this U.S. penitentiary. And ever since they built it, man, it's been nothing but problems. It's a very a harsh place. It's a higher max level. I remember when they had the first CO that was hit there, man, and it houses the majority. The majority there are Southsiders or MM members. That's who's there. Or there's at least one MM member there. I know that. But it's a Southsider yard. So it's a very dangerous yard, man. Very, very dangerous. There's been several hits there. Several things have happened over the years. So it boggled my mind when this Operation Quiet Storm happened, and they seemed to, I think this is the first time I've ever seen this, where they took a whole group of gentlemen from the state prisons and housed them in the United States. They're basically saying, we know you guys are guilty. You guys are going to the feds anyways. We might as well put you here for the time being until we can get you there. That's a trip. So I don't know how that works. The federal government just jumped in and decided that we're taking over these guys, or is that how it works? Even though they're convicted in the state of California? That's a violation of rights right there. I mean, they're not even convicted under federal law yet. But, it is what it is. So I picked up on this article, and we talked about it. DC, who's well-known, David Cervantes from Chino, California, an original NF member from down south, one of the last of the Mohicans. I think there's only two left from down south. He predates Norteños and Sureños. He predates all that, man. He's back when NF was from everywhere, down south, up north, and there was MM members likewise from both. And then you have Conejo, which he could or could not be from down south as well. There's been rumors he's from LA, from Primera Flats. There's been rumors that he's from Sacramento. He fell out of Sacramento, so they consider him Conejo from Sacra. Two well-known figures in the NF, and basically they sit on top, as well as Chuco from Sajo, as the three basically governing body, the board of governing the body members in this whole indictment. They're the three focus. Everyone else, they're trying to get them too, but these are the three targets. Now, their rights are being violated. And I'm going to tell you why their rights are being violated. First of all, we know that DC's in a wheelchair. He's had problems with his foot since he was shot back in the days, man. Refer to Flacco. He tells a story about it. He got shot in the foot in a bungled hit, and so he's always walked with the club foot or basically a prosthetic on his foot. And over time, man, that has put him in the wheelchair. This man's in his 70s, I believe. And I think Conejo's getting up there in age too. He's also confined to a wheelchair. So these guys are only being allowed one cell. There's only one cell in the block that they're being housed in that caters to people that are in wheelchairs, people that are disabled. Probably they have to shower sitting down. There's certain things they could do. They cannot be on their feet for longer than 5 minutes, from what I'm hearing and from what I read on this article. So rights are being violated. You have to, when you're in prison, man, you have to provide the proper conditions to house these inmates. You can't just put them any old place and expect them to just get on by, man. Especially when you're in a federal prison, the feds are pretty good about that. They're pretty good about taking care of their inmates, man, because inmates equals dollars, right? Especially when you have these high-ranking members from a prison organization, you would think that they would be treated fairly good until, of course, they're convicted. They're innocent until proven guilty. Just because it's a RICO, just because Everybody thinks they know. No one really knows, what these guys did or what they were, we know they're capable of it, but did they really do it? That's the question that's going to be answered in court. But there's a lot of harsh treatment going on there. First right violated is even being placed there. Second is being placed in a building away from all other inmates, basically segregated. They're basically being put in the hole and validated, right? Whereas in the state, they were able to fight that validation. They were able to fight the indeterminates and win in the federal court system. So now they went right back to that. They're being treated the way that they were being treated in California. Slammed in the hole, being segregated from everybody. Now that's probably, for the group, that's probably the beneficial for them right now, just based on they're in limbo and there's a lot of, things going on behind the scenes within the organization. But you would think that they're still not being given those rights. They have to be given their just due, their proper right. And I just think it's unfortunate, man, what's happening. And someone needs to speak up. So they filed a motion. It says DC David Cervantes is actually, he's the one that, filed it. And there's 15 other people involved in this case with them. What do you think plays out, bro? Do you think they get their just due? Do you think they ain't got shit coming, or what's going to go on with that?
Well, I mean, first of all, they're going to have to address the Americans with Disabilities Act and allow them the proper housing to, ensure their safety and their health and their well-being and all that stuff. They're not going to be able to get around that one. Number two, man, I think the most important is they learned a lesson when they housed those guys in Santa Rita back during the Black Widow indictments. They were able to do mass facilitations of stuff, being, right there in the heart of the Bay Area, able to use phones. Visits were a lot more accessible. Notes, directives, everything you can imagine was coming out of Santa Rita at that time. And the feds were like, hey, in retrospect, we blew that one. We're going to make sure this doesn't happen again. What prison should we send them to? Let's send them to where they ain't got no homeboys. We'll start that off. That's going to make them harder for them to get directives out. Let's put them in maximum security, basically 23-hour day lockdown, just like you would be in Pelican Bay. So they're not going to have access to them phones and stuff like that that get into these prisons nowadays to further facilitate whatever they wish to facilitate. The feds ain't no dummy. They're going to learn from their mistakes. We all know them sending the first wave of Black Widow people to the feds was a critical error in their approach. That all that does is allow them to gather allies and recruit and bring something that was primarily Northern Central California nationwide. They made a horrible judgment. Their strategy was just shot with that. I don't know what they were thinking. And they realize that too now. So they're going to make them changes necessary to put these guys far enough away where they can't have any influence, they can't have any communication, and they can't commit further alleged, any more allegement violation. And you know what I mean? They're not going to put them in a position to prosper. So they're going to send them somewhere where it's all, let's call it opposition, because in the feds, they're not doing it like they are in the state at this point in time. Slam them down. Don't have them nothing coming. They don't got nothing. They're on nothing coming status in there, bro. I guarantee it.
Nothing.
The only way is if they were able to gain favor with one particular guard, that'd be it. But other than that, they're put in that place to have no action whatsoever. Yeah. And I mean, we haven't heard a peep come out of that thing, man. So, you got to write. The only thing they're doing is writing letters, bro. And those are being scrutinized by everybody from the governor down to the damn janitor. You know what I'm saying? So that was their point in doing that, though. And it seems like they got it right this time from a law enforcement standpoint.
Yeah, exactly. From their standpoint and from the productive members of society. Yeah, it's beneficial for them. They learn basically what you're saying, and I agree. They learned their lesson from the first one, from Operation Black Widow. They're not going to make the same mistake twice. And with federal government, they usually don't. They usually clean up their mistakes pretty good. And they did make a lot of mistakes with Black Widow. They were able to further the cause. All they did was take guys that were doing life and just put them in another facility with better reach. From going from Pelican Bay to Santa Rita is a big flip. You know what I mean?
It's almost like going home when you go from Pelican Bay to Rita.
Going home, yeah. It's freedom. It's freedom. It's better food. It's fresh air. It's yard time. It's everything. They were living their best life. Now of course they're back slammed down. But The only thing about this that jumps out to me, like, look, come on, I've done a lot of hold time. You've done a lot of hold time, shoot time. Everything's been done. I'm gonna tell you right now, bro. You're not gonna have it your way. The shoes and the holes are meant for hardship. They're meant to make you struggle. That's what they're designed for. They're designed to break people. They're designed to it. The shoe is jail inside of jail, prison inside of prison. That's the same thing for the hole. The hole is just a waiting spot till you get to a shoe. You're not there for fucking being a nice guy, pretty much. So you have nothing coming. So I could understand them saying, you know, hey, we're slammed, our rules are being violated. This is something that's going to play out in court long after they're sentenced on this indictment and they're already gone. So it's not going to matter anyways, you know? But what the only thing that's fishing that gets me out of this whole situation, bro, the one thing is how the hell did they take these guys that were state inmates, a lot of them lifers, or a lot of time, and send them to a federal facility without being found guilty? That right there, I've never seen in my life. I've never heard of that. You know, I've heard of, okay, say you're on the streets, you're not incarcerated, they pick you up for a RICO, like they did in Operation Scrapbook in Atwater, okay? A lot of these guys were sent to the county jail and then sent to a federal holding hub or some facility because they're going to be processed through a federal indictment. Basically, the feds have their hands on them. So they have their own county jails, they have their own facilities to house these people. That's the only way I could see them justifying this. Okay, the feds are taking over. You're now our possession. So what happens with their convictions for the state? You would think that they would finish out their conviction for the state, or do they go to the feds, catch this new conviction, and then go back to the state? How does that work?
Yeah. That's what they did with Black Widow, you know, like they commuted all the state sentences to impose the you know, which it doesn't make no sense. I mean, they did them a favor, really, by shooting them to the feds, you know, because at the time there was still all the validations and everybody was stuck in Pelican Bay. Now you go out there and you get to wiggle around. I mean, we see pictures of all them chilling back in the days when they first got to the feds. Like, you weren't taking no pictures and chilling and, you know, with your homeboys in Pelican Bay. You know, you had nothing coming in Pelican Bay whatsoever.
You forgot what a camera felt like. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah. Taking pictures? What? Come on. Yeah, Skip eating his big old bowls of menudo and stuff. They were doing it, bro. They were happy to get to the Bay.
I ain't mad at them. Shit. I ain't well deserved. But
yes, sir.
At the same time, yeah, what they're doing now to this group, man, is they're ostracizing them. They're ostracizing them from everyone, man. They made these. Now, this is the true definition of incommunicado. This is the true definition of it. These guys, and you got to understand, okay, we're not looking at it from the law enforcement standpoint. They got their charges. They're going through their courts. Shit's happening. They got to go through that. But even within their organization, with the turmoil and all the tension that's been going on for so long, for the last 8-9 years, there's a lot to be answered for with some of those individuals, man. There's a lot to be spoken about, man. And they're not able to get their due process or to fucking speak on their behalf because they're being slammed down and forgot about. That hinders them. That hinders, because, you know, out of sight, out of mind. And there is no forgive and forget. You know, people are just going to be like, you know what? Hey, we could just keep facilitating what we need to without these guys. They're just a nuisance anyway. So there's a lot, man. They're in danger, and then they're being treated harshly. I think this is just another way to have their voice felt, you know, because now that you have a court case, I'm not going to speak on this shit too much. I'm not trying to put them in harm's way, but now that they have a court case, now there's ways to get lawyers involved where you can get messages to hear where, you know how it is. Everything is, you have to think, you know what I mean? Hey, the state's so lame, they paid for the game. You know what I mean?
And you know what's the truth too, man, is you know, that whole indictment pretty much decimated the state's entire get down. You know, that only left a very few limited amount of manpower under those letters within the state, man. So the state's probably still reeling from those effects. You know what I'm saying? Definitely. And it's like, at the end of the day, man, if they get convicted, hopefully they don't. But if they do they get housed federally or do they go back to the state? You know, it's like, are they going to shoot them to the feds again and see what happens? You know, also, one thing, all these lawsuits and trying to change their housing conditions, they might be attempting to be able to get out in the general population in Atwater. Atwater is Atwater is an extremely hostile environment for these guys unless things change in the feds and they more mirror the way that we're getting down in the state these days with everybody being amicable.
Yeah.
There's the word, amicable.
Which more than likely it is beneficial for all parties. But as we all know, man, federal prisons are ran totally different, man. They're still doing north-south, bro. They're still doing, California cars in certain places and Texas and this and that, whatever they got going on. I've never been to the feds, but I've heard stories, right? It just depends. Every yard's different. Whereas in California, you're going to get a mandate and every yard will vary, but it's basic. The main gist of the whole mandate's going to be, that's how it's going to be.
That's going to be pretty much universal throughout the system.
Universal. It's universal. It's no drive-bys. There's no drive-bys. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's El Norte law, basically. This is what's going to happen. Whereas in the feds, it varies because you got a lot of guys from a lot of different parts of the country, not necessarily different parts of the country. You might have guys from East Coast that are more dominant there. Say there's 50 Latin Kings on the yard, 200 Trinitarios, fucking 150 Netas, and then you got some Tango Blasts, and then 2 Norteños. You know what I mean? Who do you think got the shitty end of the stick, right? That's just how it is. So if these guys are fighting to be released into general population and do get to the Atwater Penitentiary general population yard, it's not going to be good for them. But then we don't know. We don't know what kind of deals are being brokered behind the scenes, what kind of passes are being given. No one knows because we're not in those guys' minds. We're not sitting there with them. But as far as the article saying, they filed the motion, definitely. You have nothing but time. Why not?
Yeah.
Why not? But I've seen a lot of, and it works, man. Look, they did the same thing in the shoe. They all got together. And the hostilities was implemented, the hunger strikes. A lot of things went into this, and they were able to win. So, crazier things have happened.
We were always encouraged to work on motions and, try to find loopholes and things, because you do have a lot of idle time in there. Not so much as certain people, they might have all the time in the world, but others of us were pretty busy, so I never had to focus on that. I was focusing on doing my thing. You know what I mean? I didn't have the extra time for all them lawsuits and legal law and all that stuff. I was busy, 18 hours a day. So, yeah, bro. But there's a lot of people in there, bro, that they get a hold of them damn legal law books and file motions, this and that. And it is productive, man, because that's the only way that you can really win against the system, period.
Yeah.
Is by changing them the rules or the laws.
Well, you got to understand, and Rojo, you know this best, just like I do. A lot of the guys that are there, man, they weren't having money on the streets, bro. They were doing criminal activity. So they got a public defender, just like me, I think I've only had a real lawyer one time. That was in a child custody case. For the most part, all my criminal cases, I've never been able to afford a paid lawyer. I just didn't have money like that. I thought I was balling, but I was balling on a budget, right? Yeah. I was fake balling. You know what I mean? I went to a basketball game with a soccer ball. Put it like that. You know what I mean? I had a ball. But
on Friday night, you were looking good at the club or something, but come Saturday, you were like, God damn it. Can't believe it.
Saturday, man, I was broker than Baby Joker, right? So a lot of these guys are not to afford legal representation, and good legal representation. They're not Johnny Depp and shit. You know what I mean? With the finance fucking lawyer, they find themselves going back in their case files and finding loopholes that their lawyer, if they would have had a good lawyer, could have possibly, utilized to get them less time or even out in some cases. A lot of these guys were railroaded because the district attorney and the fucking lawyer happened to went to lunch that day, and they I'll have them take 20. Don't trip.
You give me this one, I'll give you the next one.
Yeah. You get. Hey, look, I'll get them into 20, and then the next one you shoot them 10. Right?
We'll give these guys 20, but the weirdo over there, we'll give him probation.
Yeah. We'll give him probation. Oh, he's got it right at the top. You know what I mean? Oh, he was only looking at a year anyways. Yeah, year's too much. Right? So this is just how they do it. So a lot of these guys, you're encouraged to look for these loopholes because, yes, there are a lot. Manpower is needed while incarcerated, but when you're of a certain status, man, you're needed out there more. Because, you know what I mean? You know how it was, man. You're highly encouraged to go out there and get it and bring it back to the gente for the cause. It's highly encouraged, right? So yeah, that's a thing. So you're gonna have the legal beagles, the guy that are into that, and that's what they do, man. Some people, you get in there and you on the streets, you were smoking A1, you get in there and you become fucking the jailhouse Johnny Cochran. You know what I mean? It's just what it is. I've seen people do that. I've seen guys that they make Johnny Cochran look bad, right? They know their shit. So what they're doing, man, it's not going to hurt them. But at the end of the day, I don't think it's going to change anything, Rojo.
Yeah, no, they might get some. They might get some nice big ADA cells, the American with Disability Act cells, which I figure they have a shower. You know, they got it helps maneuver around when you're disabled. I don't see them getting much more than what they absolutely legally have coming under federal law.
Yeah, I think they might get peanut butter and jelly packs instead of bologna 2 times a week. Other than that, that's about all it's going to. You might get a cookie, you know what I mean, every 3 days. That's it, bro. When you're in the shoes, when you're slammed down like that, when you're being segregated, they're not giving you nada, bro. And this has happened for hundreds of years, bro, and they're not going to change it. You know, even if they did get some type of lawsuit and win, I'm going to tell you, the state or the feds are going to find some way around that to give you nada. You know what I mean? They're going to be like, okay, they said you could have this much calories, so we're going to give it to you all in one fucking meal now. So now you eat once a day. You're like, what the fuck, right? Yeah, we're gonna get you, all right. We're gonna get you.
I'll never forget the size of them trays in Pelican Bay. The first day I seen it, I was like, "That's it. That's it until breakfast. What are you talking about, bro?"
Is it like those little styrofoam trays?
I think I'm like, I think you guys forgot a bunch of shit. You know what I mean? Like, what am I supposed to do with this? You know what I'm saying? Like, dude, this is 4 bites, bro. What are you talking about?
It wasn't even enough to make a good sandwich, huh?
Man, Pelican Bay was rough, bro. And Tibbs in DC, they wouldn't even eat a lot of their shit. I'm like, man, you got some secret store over there where you can afford to give me and Wino half your food every day?
Hey, like, them guys were
you got over there, man. You got Little Caesar.
You know what it was, Rojo? Was those guys were so used to being slammed down and doing whole time. True soldiers. Hey, shout out and respect, rest in peace to Tibbs, man, and even DC. True soldados. These vatos' stomachs were this big. They trained their stomachs to not even have food. All they needed was norte and energy. That's it. Straight from there. Like these vatos, that's all they need, bro. These vatos on a different level, whole different level of real gang members, right? Real.
Hey, I looked at that tray and I was looking under the motherfucker like, did you stuff a sandwich in the bottom, man? What the fuck?
You're like, so this is the first course. This is how we start, right? The real tray's in.
It was rough.
Right, hey, the Kool-Aid packet.
Well, I left Pelican Bay weighing 168 pounds, bro.
Oh, the struggle was real, huh?
Oh, stomach was touching my back.
I'm telling you, man. Hey, and I'm sure motherfuckers filed lawsuit after lawsuit and did nothing change that. If anything, they gave you less than a year. So I'm saying, you know, I understand these guys are getting harsh treatment, but I think this lawsuit is not more about fucking wheelchair accessibility and coming out of your cell a bit more. I think it's more a way to for communication. You know what I mean? When it's all said and done. And that's just it. And just to make their voices be felt, hey, we're still here. You know what I mean? Don't forget about us. And more than likely, that's what it's about. You know what I mean? But when it comes to these prison organizations, no one knows what they're thinking but them. And that's the way they like to keep it, you know?
Yeah, that's about it, man. Hey, but I bet you, man, we're about due for like a brand new update out of that whole case, man. It's been quite a while before they've talked about it. So I'm going to be keeping my ears to the ground, man, and see what we come up with, man. But good topic. Appreciate Gunner for jumping on here. This is your boy Rojo. This is the Rojo Room. Gunner's been dropping banger after banger on Gunner's profiles as well as Gunner's Collective. Make sure you check it out. And I'll be live sometime this evening, and we're going to bump like a mother. All right,
let's make it happen.
Have a